coming up on this episode.
At the height of the business, I felt invincible. Okay? There is nothing I couldn't do. You almost felt like anything you touch turns to gold. It's a pity we have got to a point whereby we measure success by dollars and cents. And I don't know how much money is enough. Because I have made some money. In my life, I have made some cash.
Yes, you have.
But did it make me who I am? Your life is a mishmash of issues. But what do guys see? The nice car, that you're this big shot. That is what you see. But underneath, there is such a turbulent lifestyle that you're not dealing with.
What? And there are stories to be told. And I have to say, these conversations contain mature themes and listener discretion is advised. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time it is, wherever you are. And thank you for listening in. This is Living Truthfully. Welcome to episode 32, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, what a journey this is. And every time I'm in studio, every time I'm having these conversations, I'm mind blown at just the wealth and the depth of conversations that we're having. And because that's exactly what we're going to have today. Last week I did an interlude on anger, and thank you for the feedback that you've shared. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I have a man in studio. I have a man I've admired for many years. A man I've known for many years. A man who's had probably one of the most interesting entrepreneurial journeys that I know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, one Mr. Moses Nderitu. What's up? Wait. I forgot to say, a man with a mature voice.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you ni sauti ya pesa, boss.
Nakwambia.
Sauti ya pesa.
I hope italeta chapa.
Italeta chapa.
Yeah?
Mose, welcome to Living Truthfully, man.
Cheers, amani, asante.
And thank you for coming.
Asante.
I want to start by just saying, bro, you've been so good to me in terms of the feedback that you've given to the podcast and to the conversations that we're having. Thank you for encouraging me, Bana.
Imagine, Amani, you're very welcome, but you'd be surprised it is you who's been good to us because you've given us an opportunity, and I say us, as myself as a man and many other men, to be able to actually talk about things that we probably are dying with and we never actually voice out. So it's actually us who should be saying, and on behalf of many men who are not here and many that you met the last weekend, I say thank you.
Boss, I want to talk about that last weekend on the podcast. Mose put together a little barbecue and he had a couple of men and a few ladies, and we just had real talk in the middle of the night, somewhere under the stars of Nairobi, or well, somewhere between Nairobi and a neighboring
Machakos County.
Yeah. Bro, what did you think of that space that we had on Saturday?
I think it was amazing. It started off quiet, and a lot of us have known each other. I went to school to Strathmore with some of those guys.
Yes.
Some of them we ride with, and of course, some brought a friend along. But it was interesting how it started, and of course, there was a bit, as much as we know each other, there was a bit of shyness. But after a few adult drinks and enough nyama, guys fungua droho. And it was interesting to actually understand that a lot of us are going through interesting and very diverse experiences, but are literally dying inside or dying with them because they don't feel it. I think we fear that we'll be judged badly, or you'll be seen as a failure, or you'll be seen as not the person who you've maybe portrayed yourself to be.
Yes.
So it was a nice space, and I mean the feedback I've got, a lot of them saying thank you, especially the younger guys who were there, who found it extremely valuable to understand that these successful guys, I mean, you looked outside, it looked like Toyota Kenya showroom. But yet guys are telling you.
That's a story, but they all together.
But yet guys are telling you things are thick.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, for me, there were several things that you did right on over the weekend. One of it was just a group of people that you brought together. There was such a good mix in terms of age, but also diversity in terms of culture. I mean, there was an Indian guy who is nothing Indian.
In fact, we call him Forbes in our circles because when we were in school, we figured that that's the guy most likely to succeed or most likely to be on Forbes magazine.
And I think
and trust me, he's the guy who's taken his company to the stock exchange. But look, would you tell?
No. Like by the time I realized, I was mind blown. I realized on my way back to Nairobi because we shared a ride on my way back. So he did that right, to put the right group of people together. But he said something interesting. Men were shy to sort of start speaking. And that's very true of how we treat each other. We could be friends for years, but we never say the things that are really inside us until maybe an opportunity like that is created. And I think you guys had come together because you'd listened to one of your friends on this podcast. Why do you think we don't speak?
I don't know. I think we're just raised to be problem solvers.
Yes.
Okay. So the moment a guy comes and starts telling me his issues, what is my first thing is, how can I solve the problem? So if I can't solve his problem, either I duck or buy him a beer. And get him drunk and they kona shida mingi sana.
Just drink your problems
you just away. have a beer. Don't worry. These things happen. So we then tend to want to go out there and solve. And you see, it's difficult for us men to go and ask for help. And sometimes that in that space, unless you have so you find people getting to a very desperate position before they actually say. And if you remember some of the conversations, there was a conversation about somebody we know, and let's not mention their name right now, who committed suicide. Yet he was hanging out with his boys. They were having drinks, they were doing things together, but nobody knew how bad things were until
he had gone.
And listening to Steve, who's was in our class. Personally, I was very surprised because Steve was our go-to guy. And to imagine that I know Steve, but I did not know. And we meet and we say, hey, how are things? Hey, biashara ni mbaya. Things are thick. But it's become a normal conversation.
Exactly.
How are things? Things are thick. Nikubaya. Imwai, Jubilee. That's standard story for Kenyans. But how bad are things? So we are all fronting, and I think we talked about it that day. People are just fronting, but they're not willing to say that I'm doing badly. And it doesn't have to be financial. It could be on any other things. It could be on a family level. It could be on a personal level. We don't go out and say that to other men.
That brings me to you. You know, we've shared, we know each other's stories. And we've shared conversations that for us, some were unspoken until this year. And Mose, you actually said, you're ready to come and have this conversation. And I want to start there and say, why have you been so open with me? And, and I heard you on Saturday. And dude, you spoke your heart. You spoke your heart on Saturday.
That was, blame it on the alcohol.
You spoke your heart. No, but I mean, well, maybe the alcohol lubricated it. But it's true of who you are today. And I like the fact that it's true of you today. What has prompted it?
I think, look, I believe I have lived with certain issues that I've had and maybe never faced them or didn't even realize that I had them for maybe the last 25 years. But when I started listening to your podcast, it was at an interesting time also in my life. I don't know, something happened last year, and as frivolous as it may sound, my dog died. And I was so shocked and by how much grief I felt that my dog died. And it's your pet, it's a dog. And maybe we're becoming muzungus or something. But I was literally grief-stricken. And that, it occurred to me, and then around the same time, there was quite a number of people who I know or are close to me who either passed on or, so it was quite a few funerals. And for the first time, I actually seriously considered my own, that I'm here, I could die anytime. Not that I'm hoping to or there's something I'm doing that, but my own mortality life, became a reality. And then I realized I was very alone. I felt very alone and very lonely. And that's a bit strange because, as I said on Saturday, I don't know how many people I know.
You're popular.
I don't know if I'm popular, but I know a lot of people. You have a great
network.
I know so many people.
Yeah.
But I can easily say I can count, if I'm lucky with both hands, people I can call friends. But the number of people I know, if I had to invite them to something, I would need to do it in a stadium or some gymnasium like Kasarani. But the people I really value or who are of real value to me can fit in my sitting room. And that is the space I was in at the period when we started chatting. Then I listened to you. And I think where we connected is when you talked about Christmas.
Yes.
And we talked about this. And for me, Christmas has always been an ugly time. Because either I'm alone or I am on somebody else's plan. Okay? So I have my kids, yes. But at that time, they are with their moms. So you're always alone. So you know how difficult it is to find a guy with a plan over Christmas.
A guy. I realized, Mazi, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
So at least you have one.
So you find that it's a period you actually don't like.
You're alone.
You're alone. You don't like it. But it's also very difficult to go and say that this is the issue. So you just decide you're a Grinch and everything. And for a long time, Christmas is just another time that comes. Okay, I also have other issues. I hate Christmas carols because they've been the same since I was born up to today. I can't stand them. But yeah.
Musicians out there, you've heard, Mose is looking for new carols.
Yeah. So for me, that was where I connected with what you were saying. And it occurred to me that the reason I never thought that was the reason why I hated Christmas. And when I think about my life, I can count how many Christmases I've enjoyed. I've either been with friends, if I'm in a relationship, I'm now with your family, but I'm an outsider. Yeah. But I have never had. So in my life, I've had like 2 Christmases I enjoyed. And those are the Christmases when my children have come to me and are with me. And that is the time I connected with you. And I think I called you and I said, hey, you've got a point there. But it made me understand that for a long time, there may be things that I've been going through. And there are days I get like incredibly lows, but I don't know why. You've just got a low day. You don't even, maybe there are days you decide, Leo marathon series. But it's not because that when somebody tells you, what are you doing at home? I'm just watching telly. You're literally fronting and you're saying, hey, look, I took the day off. No, you didn't take that day off. You're in such a low place that you can't face the world. But sometimes you don't even know what it is that is making you low. So listening to your story, I started relating to so many things that you were talking about and your guests were talking about that I could see myself in. And that is actually why I found it very easy to speak to you, because I could relate. And I did not feel you'll judge me, because here is somebody who's going through a similar issue or who has gone through something similar, so they may understand where I'm coming from. Yeah.
Bro, let me say, you calling and having these conversations with me, it shaped my world a bit. And I want us to talk about that for a second, because in my world, you're pretty successful. Okay? My first interaction with you was when you used to run a studio, Level 1 Productions. I'd come there, you were at on Hadheru Road, and I'd come there to do a shoot for a Mara Moja ad with guys of Newton Bates, and I think that was my first interaction with you. And then I realized you had done Omo Pickerbox. in my world, TV and media, for people who are not in the industry, it's glam and it's inaccessible and it's fame and it's money, and that was my first image of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Omo Pickup Box Show. It's new, it's exciting, and there are fabulous prizes to be won.
So you're very successful. I saw you set up your second, your second. I don't know if it's your second business, but the next business, which was the portable Lose exclusive. And I saw a business model working. I mean, Mose, I paid exclusive to do events for me, and for my clients.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, whether you owe me too, I know you give us a service.
Took care of your shit, boss.
Yeah, you did. So Moses used to say that this is one business where it's easy to collect money because, if people don't pay you, you tell them, you'll take them back. Take them back their shit. And then I've seen you transition even from that business and to go into one of the big four and just, make affordable housing. So in my world, you're successful. You're where I want to be. Yet, you're going through the same challenges as I am. And that was mind-boggling for me.
It's a pity we have got to a point whereby we measure success by dollars and cents.
Preach.
Okay? And I don't know how much money is enough. Because I have made some money. In my life, I have made some cash.
Yes, you have.
But did it make me who I am?
No.
If today you're reading my eulogy, will you talk about how much money I made? So it's not important. So what is important? And that is what we have to start redefining. What is success to the person?
My friend, you're speaking truth.
And maybe now at this point, and sometimes, hindsight is 2020.
It is.
At this point, I can feel that was not success. Was it? It could have been a certain level of success because I think when I was in TV production and even from my very first business, I have had a good level of success as in the business sphere.
Yes.
But have I been a successful man? For me, those things didn't define what I would think being successful are. Today, what do I measure my success as? Is how actually I measure my success from my family. How well are my kids taken care of? How well what can I provide for them? Because that is my legacy. That is what I will leave behind. Yeah. But biashara, the car I drive, the watch I wear, the whiskey I drink, flowers. It's flowers, and they'll wither.
And they wither.
Yeah. And what we actually should be thinking about, or what I'm trying to now get myself to think, is what are the roots? What are the things that remain? Yeah, those friendships that you can count on. Those things that are more important than these flowers that we are, or these things that we are chasing. That the moment, and if I gave you my car journey, one day I put it on Facebook. My car journey is ridiculous. There's a day I thought, what car haven't I owned? But do I really care? What difference did it make? Did I get to Mombasa in 2 hours instead of 5 because I owned a certain car? Yes, maybe it has a bit more comfort. Maybe the AC works better. Maybe the stereo sounds better. But at the end of the day, so it's just a car. Yeah? But however, when you sit there and recently my daughter was in China for World Scholars. And I see this trophy that they've won, and now they're going to the global round in Yale. And I literally shed tears.
Wow.
Well, this is the first time she'll hear that. But anyway, I literally was crying.
Yeah.
And I figured that for me is what's important. That is actually what is important. That is success. It is her brain, but for me, my job is to provide that enabling environment for her to be the best she can be, as my parents did to me.
Yeah.
Not for me to amass as much cash as I can. Hey, if along the way I do amass some cash,
Well and
great. But I'm also not very good with money because if I have it, I share it.
Yeah.
And sometimes a bit too much.
It's not a bad thing. When I'm here and Najitetea, I'm hoping he'll share as he almost chokes on his coffee. Let's talk about roots, Mose. Let's talk about roots. Let's talk about where you've come from. The family that you grew up in. We were just talking about Buru as you grew up. What's your background?
Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I sit and wish I was a kid again.
Well, I'm a last born of 4 boys. So I grew up in Buruburu Estate. That's where we lived until I moved out of home at a tender age of 18, 19 there. Typical family. I mean, dad was a civil servant, so was mom. My bros are scattered around this town. And it was what I would say is normal upbringing.
Yeah.
There's no day we starved. There's no day I was ever sent home from school. There's no day I went to school in torn shoes or torn shorts. So I had a good childhood. I had a good childhood. Maybe now, as I grow up, I'm realizing that maybe there are things that happened in my childhood that I didn't deal with. But in reality, my childhood was great. I did all crazy things. Tuliba bike, Lion's Maid, that ice cream box. Yeah. We smashed all with fairs. We smashed all that street lights in Buru. All. And we put that estate in darkness. As kids, there's nothing we stopped the train because we could go and we get around on the train. Tukenda Dufumpararo, Kodam Chacha. Normal things. Kacheza draft and on a draft up.
On a draft board yetu hapa kwa studio.
So it was a very normal childhood. Went to Westlands Primary School. So then after that, went to Highway Secondary School in South B. That's where I learned all the bad habits, which was nice because it gave me a different. It was not as sheltered as Westlands. And, there were the diversity of people were crazy. We were taught how to do things like Toivo. For those millennials who do not know Toivo, just stay like that.
Don't even look for it. Don't look for it.
You'll be grossed out. But I mean, through Highway, finished in 91. So I'm mzee kidogo. And then literally started working straight away. I was doing a CIM diploma, and so I got a job. And the way I started working was quite strange because I never went looking for a job. I used to act at the theater with some guys who we had met at drama festival when we were in school.
Oh, really?
And we started our own theater group and put 2 or 3 productions then. And I'm talking about 92, boss.
Wow.
And then I met this guy, the late David Ohingo, the musician.
Yes.
And David told me he was putting together a radio show.
Yes.
And he took me to a studio where Citizen is today. I think it was Tamasha or something. And he was recording this radio show. So listened to it. That's the first time I ever been to a studio. Then came back to where he used to work, which was in Longonot Place, a place called Fast Forward.
Yes.
And I was listening to the takes and writing for him which ones work. So I was like, you just introduced me to your intern. I was not an intern, but I was helping out just because it was something fun. And the Muzungu who ran part of the facility came and just started screaming at me because he's found some young boy sitting on his equipment, doesn't know what I'm doing there. And I'm thinking, Motogo, what's going on? Me, I've done nothing wrong. Me, I thought David was the boss. Who was. And so he told me, Alan tells me, if you're going to come here and use my equipment, you can as well make yourself useful and do X, Y, or Z.
Yes.
And all I had was time. And there I was doing. And that's how I started working. So I started by logging what we used to call logging tapes. Today, people do it electronically. You literally, shuttling, fast forwarding, you write in 01 minute, 33 seconds, 05. This is what the guy says. You literally transcribe it. And that's what I started doing. And that was a part of in 93. And towards the end of 93, when I was doing that, a war broke out there was a war in Somalia and there was a war in Rwanda. And the company I worked for then, called Fast Forward, used to provide logistical services to international TV crews. So I'm free. I go to college in the evening. So I threw myself into that. And I used to assist in any way if it was going to go to the airport, collect tapes, come, log them, edit, and put them out via satellite. Yeah, that's how I started. And before I know it, I was full-time. I've not gone home for a week. I am living literally in Longonot Place.
Wow.
Yeah, in one of the office had an apartment. Yeah. So I literally moved out of Buru to Longonot Place.
That was a full upgrade.
Full upgrade. Then they gave me my own apartment. So I lived in 3 apartments in that place. And that is where I started. So all my boys when they were in Campo, they all used to come and hang in my digs. Me who's not gone to Campo has a house in Longonot Place. Yes. I have a moats. Yeah.
Wow.
And then they're chewing kitabu in KU or main campus. So that's basically how I started.
Wow.
And then towards end of 93, the company got a gig to do Omo Picker Box. And so the way the company was set up, we had a production side that used to do adverts. We had a facility side for editing, and we had an animation side. And nobody could be bothered to do this game show. Well, after all, what is a game show? It's going to run on KBC. And me, as a 20-year-old, I was too eager to do it. And so the South Africans came who were doing Surf Picker Box. And I was the guy trained. And 94, we put together our first episodes of Omo Picker Box, which we shot at KBC. And I was the guy in charge, because other than the 2 South Africans who came, when they left after that, I was left with that. And I ran with that for a good almost 8 years, from 94 to around 2000. So that's actually how I started in that journey. Wow. But that's not how I started business. Before I had done cybers, or I had done cybers when there were no cyber cafes, with a pal of mine called Adrian. Wow. Adrian was my first friend in primary school. We ended up opening some cyber cafes. We had one in Kenya Cinema, another one in Coastal.
Wow.
Yeah, so that entrepreneurial thing has been there with me. I don't know where it came from, whether I was born with it or it's just necessity. But so I started there at Fast Forward, and somewhere along the way the company went bust, and you around 96, and you're jobless, but you have a project.
Yes, you have Omo Picker Box.
Yeah, so I started freelancing. So I would freelance from one place to the next. Vivid Features, and
which
Blue Sky.
Next door,
Exactly. In fact, Vivid was born out of one of the splinters when Fast Forward closed.
Fast Forward, okay.
And then Blue Sky Films were also the guys who we were with. So I was freelancing, and then I would say, if I'm not working, if I'm not doing adverts for them, I would say, hey, can I take this week and use your company to do this production? Because we used to record like 6 months worth of programs over a period of 2 weeks, and then leave them, and we would figure out, we'd say, okay, this episode is going to run on 21st of October. So we literally pretend it's October. We wish guys happy Kenyatta Day and all that.
And those things.
So that's the way, And then one day, at that time, the marketing manager at Unilever, a lady called Pauline Morioki, just sat me down in her office and said, this model of yours is unsustainable. We cannot be giving you our biggest project, and your Bila office.
Yes.
Your Bila structure. You're just a guy in a car. Who operates from a mobile and a pager. I mean, what's this? And so that's how my first company, Level 1, came up. And the reason why it was called Level 1 is my housemate then, I didn't even know what to call that company. So, call it Level 1 because you're going to go to like level 50. So you're on the first level.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's how Level 1 started. And that I carried on with that for quite a few years, at least maybe around, I would say 10 before I exited. And I exited, the people who worked for me took it over for consideration. My exit was not as planned. When I wanted to exit, I spoke to the then general manager, and I said, I want to exit.
Yeah.
And as I exit, I would like you to take over. But let's agree on a deal on how I exit over the next 3 years, and you then take it up because it's something you'd like to do. And the reason I was exiting is I felt that in that TV production space, there's nothing I had not done. There was nothing else to prove. I had done TV shows. I had done Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I had done international adverts. I had done movies. There was nothing more. But I was getting frustrated at the point whereby, as much as we were doing excellent work and I felt that I was still struggling to get noticed. So you go to an ad agency and you're being treated like you're a startup that you opened shop yesterday. But a Muzungu shows up in this country. And maybe even you bring him in to shoot an advert. Then he decides this country is very nice. He's going to stay. And he becomes your competitor. And now he's calling the shots. So for me, that was very frustrating. Because I'm thinking, as you grow, doors should be opening themselves. But here you're finding it even more and more difficult. And what was more frustrating is when some of the people who are the biggest roadblocks were my peers, were people I thought were my friends. They were my peers. So I just felt I didn't want to do this anymore. And I opted to plan an exit. But unfortunately, as I'm negotiating with my then GM and one of the other people who are working for me, and we're negotiating and we are discussing, and this is how we will exit, and this is what you pay, and you pay me this over the next 3 years or whatever. I find out that they've registered their own company doing exactly the same thing while working for me.
Oh no.
And you're there, you've checked out mentally, and now somebody has stabbed you like with a machete in your back. And it was very difficult. And maybe, actually before Saturday, I've never said that before. Before Saturday, I never ever said how difficult it was for me to have built this business, and now I know it's doing well, and I want to exit, and I am doing this, as they say, roho safi, with utmost good faith. And then this happens. So even when I then exited, because then I had, of course, now she had to leave, they had to leave and start their own business on their own, and it was not the best. Whoever then took over, who are also still working there. All I wanted to do is just get out, because I couldn't go through that same heartbreak a second time.
And it's a real heartbreak.
It is a heartbreak, because it then makes you don't trust. And sometimes, we say you don't realize how much you don't trust until maybe years later. And they started, and when I look back, that could be part of the trust deficiency I have today. Because while I believe, and while I operate like almost like, happy-go-lucky, you don't care, I don't trust much. In reality, I don't. But it's not a side of myself that I show out there. But that I'm not a very trusting person.
Wow.
And the journey continues.
That's such a good story. I want to, at that time, around the time of your exit, I think at that point now you were in my radar. And, you mentioned just a little earlier, you mentioned about, your, some of the, I don't call them mistakes, but some defining moments that happen in your life. What are some of the defining moments that happened around that time when you were exiting, and maybe when you were going through this heartbreak? What are some of the things? How did that show up for you?
I would say, one, at the height of the business, I felt invincible. Okay, there is nothing I couldn't do. You almost felt like anything you touch turns to gold. You do, if it's an advert, you walk in there, you had a confidence, you nail it. If it's a TV show. I mean, they were coming out of my ears. I was, Blue Band want a show. Don't worry, you give me 2 weeks, I'll come up with a concept. Blue Band quiz show. Hair Glow want a show. Hair Glow dating game. So who wants this? And it was easy.
Yeah.
So you felt like you were on top of the world. But then there's an unsatisfaction somewhere that is making you want to exit, and maybe a restlessness.
Yes.
And so for me, I knew I wanted to get out. But then something also happens is my daughter was born. And in the run-up to that, it was not bad until she was born, because I was given an ultimatum. Get married by a certain day before the child is born or not. And when I opted not to, life started going downhill. And let me tell you, that kind of drama, it's not funny.
It takes you down as well.
It takes you down. And you then now you lose focus, because now you're dealing with other issues.
Yes.
So it then tended to, and because the lady who's my excellent friend today, in fact, we had a long chat this morning. At that point, because she was working for me, I wanted to, now it has accelerated my exit. I needed to get out of this space.
So you're running from many things.
I am running away from many things.
Yeah.
And at that point, my lifestyle was leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, I spent too much time in Sippers in Hurlingham. I mean, it was, and because I would say my lifestyle was horrible if I think about it today.
No,
But at that point, it was very normal. It was normal to go out for a drink every day.
Yeah.
Literally every day. And the liver was fresh, man. You could wake up the next day and go to work. So there was a lot of things happening. But so that was a big defining moment. I think another defining moment was just the realization that, and this I'm being very careful how I say this, is that no matter how well you treat people, it's not a guarantee they will do the same to you.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a big blow, because I felt that I had treated my employees very well. I hoped, and I still do. And I'm actually quite convinced that I did, because when I look at a lot of people who came through level 1, either from internship or worked there, I would say 80% run their own businesses today. So it was an incubation. So I felt that it was something I was doing that was right. And one of the things that inadvertently I did when I was at level 1 is we created so many people in production that when I joined, it was a Muzungu business. Yes. I can literally say I was one of the first black-owned production companies. By the time I was exiting, there were quite a number.
Yes.
And anything you watched on TV, from news to an advert to, there was somebody who went through the level 1, I would call it school.
Yes.
So, you then hope, and maybe somewhere in the back of your mind, you hope then they would reciprocate when the day came. So the last person you expect to be stabbing you in the back is somebody who you've helped nurture or raised. But who do you go and complain to?
No.
Do you even know that you're going through that issue? So it's life. You go have a beer and you continue.
Last week I spoke about anger, and I spoke about something I learned. We either express anger outwardly, so those people who shout, maybe violent, and then there's those like me who don't really express our anger outwardly, and so we implode. How that implosion shows up is now because you don't say, you don't deal, so it shows up through things that we do. And so it's either substance abuse, it's alcoholism, it's pornography, it's narcissism. So that it shows up in those character flaws. So I've been looking back at my life, and I've started to see, I'm an angry guy, but not angry physically, like outwardly, but all these things that have happened to me, whether as a result of my choices or not, make me angry. And because I've not dealt with that anger, then, I've made bad choices. And I'm wondering whether when you look back, you see a similar pattern. Do you see, like now, that level 1 story must have made really angry? What was your outlet?
I would say when I now look back, and I have done that a lot this year, a lot, and some of it is a bit dark and scary. And sometimes you look back and
all
you
of it is welcome here, by the way.
Yeah, you look at it and you start, and you realize that my first real anger issues is when we were in Form 2, and we got auctioned.
Wow.
I don't know if, I know you've been talking about auctioneers.
Yeah.
You come home, you're walking from the bus stop and you meet your boys and all your friends. Sasa Mose, kwani mnahama? Thinking, what are these guys talking about?
Yeah.
You have no clue. Because then you enter your house and there is nothing. And when I say nothing, sitting room, ni picha tu kwao. No picha na calendar hanging on the wall. There is nothing in the sitting room. Now, as a 14-year-old or 15-year-old, what's going on? What's happening here?
Yeah.
Then the parents are on each other's necks.
Yeah.
Uko, it's worse than Iran and Iraq.
Yeah.
So they are at each other's. And this is something my dad had been in a business, it's not been going okay, or something has happened until auctioneers have checked into the digs. Mom is not going to give him time of day.
Yeah.
And you are in between.
Yeah.
These are your parents. You're supposed to love both of them.
Yeah.
So you have mom telling you, when you make a mistake, you're just like your father. You're useless. Yeah. There's nothing you're going to do. You've not done, you're not doing badly. You're doing badly in school. You'll just end up like him. And you don't realize, but somewhere in the back of your mind, those things stick with you.
Yeah.
And they show up as an adult.
Yes.
On the other side, dad is now absent. I mean, Mzes those days never, I don't know, where did our fathers used to go? Because they were never home.
I don't know.
Where did they used to go?
I don't know.
They used to check in late and leave early.
Yeah.
So now he's checking in later and leaving earlier. So you find that you really don't see him. So you tend to also start resenting him for that. And my mzee became IMF. He'll put your bus fare, because I'm in a day school. It'll be there. In fact, it became, just give me the money for the week.
Yeah.
So we don't have to interact. After all, I don't see you. Yeah. So those things are there. Then you're the last born, so you're the one who's at home.
Yeah.
So as that is continuing, I remember going all the way through 4th form. And now I think that is why I left home so early. Because me, the moment I finished 4th form, I left to Coast and I stayed with my bro for like 3 months or something.
Yeah.
I remember just being told by my mom, I am only here suffering because of you.
Wow.
Yeah? Because the moment you finish school, Amara here. So that is what I have grown up with. But what was my outlet for that? It doesn't exist. You keep it.
You can't have an outlet.
Yeah. Until when it became, and it's sad that it got to a point where it became violent and badly violent. And she had to leave before I actually finished. And again, what do you do? So she has left. You're left with your Zaks and your bros. Are you going to reprimand the guy?
No, you can't.
You will find yourself on
outside,
the cab, outside.
Yeah.
So you have to live with this. So now in hindsight, I said, maybe that's why I left at the age 19. I was finished. I was out of there and I have never stayed home. I've never been back home. I've never stayed at home from that period. Wow. Then you get into business or you get into working and you throw yourself in it. And for me, that was my first outlet, is to throw yourself completely and 100% in work.
Yeah.
And that way and you saw the success,
Yes, and
which
you're
you're now
able
talking
to
about.
define
You're
yourself.
able to define yourself. You're able to do things that maybe other people can't do. And now you start seeing yourself that you actually have something that you can even help others, or you can go back and help your bro, or help your mom or something. So you feel that now you're feeling good about yourself. But today, I know the real issue is packed.
Yeah.
It's in a safe and just locked.
Yeah.
So as you continue, you pick up disappointments, but you don't deal with them. So I would even find, and this is one of the things I found very defining, is I would get into relationships, but I can't commit. I can't go the full hog. So what I would then, my outlet would be, is if it was good, if the relationship was good, and I'm thinking this one
Yeah.
it's looking good,
Yeah.
I would start now looking, where is the kasoro? There must be something.
Yeah.
And if you can't really find it or define it, you then create it yourself. And what's the easiest way of creating it yourself is start another one. Okay? So in the process, this person will leave,
Yes.
not because they will leave you,
Yes.
because there's a problem with you. So you find that you're your life is a mishmash of issues. But what do guys see? The nice car, that you're this big shot. That is what you see. But underneath, there is such a turbulent lifestyle that you're not dealing with. So if it's not work, then now you're chasing skirt, left, right, and center. Yeah, that was the outlet. You're chasing every single day, and it now make it a game. How quickly can I get her to say yes?
Wow.
I mean, to you,
Yeah.
you're playing a game, but you're playing with somebody's life.
Yeah.
Okay? But at that point,
It doesn't feel like it. Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it.
You can't, and I've been there. I understand it. You don't feel the responsibility.
No,
of it.
you don't. But then you don't realize that every time you did that, and you became numb to it, and you continued and continued. Yeah. And then now, 25 years later, you're wondering, how did I get here? How am I this person? Yeah. How is that your default? That's where you want to fall back to when you're in shit. Yeah. When you're in problems. What do you do? But it's because you've not dealt with the real issues that started at the beginning. Whether it's anger, whether it's disappointment, whether it's your family issues, you didn't deal with them. The other day, unfortunately, I exploded to one of my bros. And I think up to today, I don't know, I've not talked to him. I think he's in shock because of the things I told him. And I found myself telling him things from 25 years ago. Yeah, or even more. And I just told him, and this is my elder brother. I told him, even me, I want an elder brother. Because at one point I looked and I said, I am tired to be, the words I use is, I'm tired of being the lastborn. Because I feel like I'm got the responsibilities of the firstborn, but I'm a lastborn.
Yeah.
So I should be going to them when I have issues, but that's not what's happening. So when there's a problem, it's me who's been called to sort out other guys. And then when I have a problem,
you're alone.
I'm alone. And so that day I just blew up, and I really told him off. And I told him off. I don't regret telling him off. I just hope that he understood what exactly I was telling him, as opposed to it's sometimes it's easier because I said it in anger and I'd got to the wall.
Yes.
No, don't push me because I'm close to
the
edge.
Yeah.
I had got to the edge.
Yeah.
And so I have found that in the last few years, I find that I explode. Sometimes I can explode in anger. But where is that anger coming from? On the other flip side is I can burst out into tears. Yani, let me tell you, amani wacha tu niseme ukweli.
Sama.
This thing called America's Got Talent, I am watching. Yani, I'm just crying.
Bro, you're not alone.
Yani, I'm thinking, what the hell? And I used to do that with another thing called home makeovers extreme.
Yes,
I would shed.
And I would bring the farmer back to look at the digs. Yes,
I'm what? Where is this coming from? And I know that I am not shedding about what is on telly.
Yeah.
That there is other things that
it's therapy.
Yeah,
it's therapy.
Yani, I don't know. The other day we were watching something as and I was playing on YouTube as driving, and then I felt that 2 tears coming, and my son is sitting over here. There is no way he's seeing me clearing. Kuna. There's nothing. Yani amkaza hii kufunga unaanza. You know that movies over of trying to dry your eyes. But the tears are literally there. They're just somewhere. So there's a lot of things that are not processed.
Unresolved,
They're unresolved, or they're, and because you never even thought about them or ever thought that you had those issues, you didn't resolve them. And then in comes Amani and his podcast. And you start listening and thinking, hold on, I relate to that. I've been there. I've done that. I know exactly what that guy's talking. I know exactly what Dr. Gido is saying. I know exactly what he's talking about. I know about this hostage story.
Yeah.
And you start realizing, hold on, I'm not alone. I'm not alone.
We're a tribe, man.
Yeah.
We're a tribe.
And that's,
You know, you've said something so profound, eh? You've connected a dot for me. And you guys have cried my own tears just watching TV, man.
That one, let me actually confess.
Yeah.
Crying is now, I'm no longer, it's become kind of normal. In fact, I wish I cried a bit more, because
I agree.
When you do, you tend to feel so much better.
It's cathartic,
but
it's
cathartic. Not, again, we are not trained to cry.
No.
Can you imagine if a man here start crying here? You'll start, now look at this nigga here. Guy is too emotional.
Yeah, it's fine, Mose. But there are places that even I don't know how to relate.
Yeah.
Because I can't show my emotion. And even when I want to, I feel like it's irresponsible. The other day I told someone that men carry even the responsibility of their emotions. Because as a man, if you show that you feel, it's possibly it's a perception, but if things were thick, biashara wise, then I went home and that was the day I was expecting a check. It didn't come, and there was a debt collector who called, and now I feel like I'm stuck between someone who doesn't want to pay me, or maybe even there's no biashara, and someone who needs their money. And I get home, and in front of my children I break down and start crying. I've messed up their world.
But let me give you now the flip side. At least you're getting home to somebody. Can you imagine now going to the same situation, and you open the how, and you're trying to make chopping board soup? Yeah, you know the way that chopping board always smells of nyama. Yeah, you have bila plan. You don't know what's gonna happen the next day.
Yeah,
Amani, there's so many of us who are at that point, or who have been to that point, but have never ever said to anybody. And nobody even will ever know. Even if today I said that there are days I didn't have money for food, okay, no one will believe, because they see you come out, you drive a mots, you whatever, but there are days you don't even know what you're gonna do. Yeah,
bro, I understand you so much, and you know that I know.
Yes,
you know that I know.
I do.
Yeah, you know that I feel you. That has been a recurrent story for me. It's been a recurrent story of, because when I shut down 360, I didn't have an income, and the little money I had ran out. I've told you this story. I've called you when I'm in distress. But
we are all there. Everybody is one tragedy away from complete and utter poverty. All you need is a sick family member, and everything is gone. And we have to start being real, because, and we spoke about this last Saturday, when somebody dies, people are so willing to be there and give money and give you a beautiful send-off and buy an expensive coffin. But when you are alive, who is there? Can you You see, I have sat in committees and somebody would want to collect 5 million for a funeral. Would we have collected 5 million when that person was alive?
Bro.
So what are we doing? What are we doing? And those are the things that I've been asking myself. What are we doing? Am I that person? And because I don't know. How do we get out of that? Why do I want a 5 million shilling funeral?
Yeah.
Okay? Maybe we don't talk about what we want when we are gone. But why? For what reason? So that what? So that what? You're gone.
I hear you.
Make an impact today.
Now, yeah.
Make an impact to the people. Amani, if I value you and I value what you're doing, and that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to tell my friends today what value they have in my life as they're here.
Yeah.
So that when they're gone or I'm gone, there's not much left to say because you knew and you knew where I was.
Yeah.
You knew what I thought. And I think that's what I told last week. And I said, this is why these people are here. There's one or two maybe who are not there. Yeah, who I could call my friends. But especially in the male side.
Yeah.
But all my male friends, maybe if I were to count, maybe around 3 people weren't there. Or 4. 5 max. However, I'm happy to call them and say, or to meet them and say, this is what you mean to me. This is what you've been to me. But I'm not going to wait for when I'm in a coffin or when, and I don't want them to do the same for me.
Next on Living Truthfully. Mose, you had a conversation on Saturday and you said why you're not married. And for me, that was such an important conversation. But you've made reference to your daughter, you've made reference to your son, you've made reference to their moms. Just paint a picture for me. What does your family look like right now?
Okay. Interesting one. In the life I've lived, I am so used to being told all the bad things I've done, or all the places I have fallen short. But very rarely does anybody actually come and tell you what you've done or done well or you're good. And sometimes that's all you want to hear because you can build on it.
This is Living Truthfully.